It is 5 o'clock. I will call the meeting to order. Let us begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. It has been suggested to me that we slightly alter the order of events tonight and move the celebrating community successes ahead of the open forum, since the open forum may take a little longer than usual, and those people who are in the mood to celebrate won't have to hang around here quite so long. So let's consider the Military Family Recognition and Military Child Appreciation Month.
So if you are here for Military Family Recognition or Child Appreciation, why don't you come on up? All the way up. So you guys, I think this is the second time you're back, and so I wasn't here last time, but why don't you go ahead and tell us who we are and a little bit about where you've been.
All right. So I'm first class Trevor Nelson. Been in for 19 years. Went to Alden Concord High School. Dibble there was my band teacher. Wrestled at wrestling practice for Score here when we joined Albertley during the winter periods or the Christmas time. I've been deployed 4 times. Married my beautiful wife who also works at Hawthorne, and we have our 2 children. You want to say your name?
Ellie. And where do you go to school? Lakeview.
Oh, what grade are you in?
First grade.
First grade at Lakeview. What's your name?
Wheeling.
And how old are you?
4.
You'll be at Lakeview next year.
And Christy, what do you teach for the district?
I teach kindergarten, 12 years.
All right. So, Trevor talked about being deployed 4 times. We always talk about the soldiers when they're deployed, and we sometimes forget about the other half when they're left home. And so I think that having personally experienced it 2 different times in my life, I can tell you my wife is very appreciative of the fact that we are recognizing families here tonight for the sacrifices that they make. And it's a different world out there. And really the interesting thing is we're much more connected with technology than we've ever been, and it puts really a greater burden on both the soldier and the spouse, because you can maybe communicate more often. You feel some more of the stresses day to day in your lives, and makes it that much more challenging for you, for the family. And as part of the school district, I want to thank you both and thank the sacrifices you've made, and hopefully you will not have too many more sacrifices for the little ones here as we move forward. But the world is a crazy place right now, and it's people such as Trevor and Christy here who really help us when we talk about making sacrifices for freedom. So on behalf of the district, thank you.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, let's give them a round of applause.
All right. Next, and the reason for the shirt and tie is celebrating the success of Albertley wrestlers. And last time we had them on the schedule, they were playing baseball, first day of practice, and I find that tonight, as a result of a rescheduled game, they're on the field again. So we have a video. I see there's, looks like Mike. Who is that? Well, anyway, we'll play it then.
Tell us your name and grade here.
Mike Olson, and I'm in 10th grade.
Logan Davis. And what grade are you in, Logan?
9th grade.
I'm Cameron Davis, and I'm a senior at the high school.
What was your favorite thing about the state tournament experience?
It was probably getting on the podium as a freshman.
Probably just like all the tough matches that I won, just going to the finals, being on the big stage in front of all the people.
Favorite thing's got to be in the finals, being on the center stage, right in the middle of the act with everyone watching.
Cool.
I will be going wrestling at the college, like I said before, and then I'll be lifting weights, just trying to be a better athlete, stay in shape for next wrestling season.
Great.
Probably hit the weight room, lift some weights.
I'll be wrestling a couple times a week, along with lifting weights, and yeah.
All righty.
Thank you.
I should point out a couple of things. Logan and Cam are brothers, Davis brothers, and Mike Olson is the grandson of none other than Bruce Olson. And I've known all those kids for a long time. Another individual, these three fellows were all in the state tournament, and a senior that wasn't in the state tournament that also should get a little recognition, I think, is Carter Miller, who was one of the most dedicated kids I've ever worked with. And he and Cam seniors worked out together, and they served as assistant coaches a lot of the time too. And Mike, Bruce's grandson, has all the credentials to serve as an assistant coach too. Those I wasn't even wrestling when I was the age of Logan Davis. I didn't come out till I was a sophomore, so obviously they already know more than I ever knew, and it's a pleasure to work with them. So, next on the agenda is the open forum, and we have a list of signees here, and I see that it looks like less than 15, so we won't have to cut anybody. And Ashley has an ingenious system of randomizing, and I'm assuming it will be posted on the screen. Well, that'd be good. Then we have the order. Open forum is an opportunity for the public to make presentations in front of the board, and it's an activity that we generally look forward to. All right, so your numbers correspond to the number.
Are there 10 on the list, Neil?
There aren't any numbers, but I assume it's 1 through whatever. Ten, okay? And we begin with 2, which is Craig Lutke.
Pays not to be number 1, I guess. Good evening. So my name is Craig Lutke. I own 2 businesses in town. One's a grain merchandising company, and the other one's a commodity consulting business. And I'm also a trustee on the Albert Lee Healthcare Coalition. So I want to thank you for the opportunity to speak today. I would like to speak specifically regarding Mercy One's latest offer to the district, which was relayed to Mr. Funk on last Friday. Mercy One has expressed a further interest in operating the district's clinic for 1 year at its present Brookside site, contingent on then moving the clinic to Mercy One's Workside Clinic at Northbridge Mall for an additional 2-year period. To alleviate any possible concerns about the idea of maybe getting tied to a 3-year contract, I'm sure that there could be a cancellation clause after, say, a 90-day time to cure that could be negotiated so that you're not tied to it if you don't like the service. Also, Mercy One has interest in hiring the current nurse practitioner to ensure patient familiarity. Mercy One is willing to also lower the annual cost to operate the clinic over that 3-year period, which those details Mr. Funk has currently in hand. Contrary to social media chatter, clinic referrals would be made to the medical doctor and/or specialist of the patient's choosing. The Mercy One Worksite Clinic has its own separate entrance for patient convenience. In short, more patients Mercy One sees, the faster Mercy One can add urgent care, imaging, and an ambulatory surgical center, which all benefit the Worksite Clinic. Albert Lea Healthcare negotiated significantly lower medical service rates for all services. These lower medical rates in turn lower insurance rates for businesses in Albert Lea and Freeborn County. My company in particular receives a 25% discount on its healthcare costs by utilizing Mercy One. These lower insurance rates translate into tremendous opportunities for all businesses, their expansion, and all new business growth in the city and the county. These lower costs and the business growth potential benefits everyone, including the school district. So I thank you for the time.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Lutke. And I didn't point out that we have a rather intimidating timer on the screen, and so you might pay attention to that. So thank you. Number 9 is number 2, and number 9 is Chris Vogt.
Chris Vogt?
Yeah. Or I'm sorry, Chad. I'm sorry, Chad. Yeah. Forgive.
That's my sister-in-law.
Well, there's something to that, I guess.
Well, good evening, everyone. My name is Chad Vogt. I'm the CEO of Mrs. Jerry's Kitchen here in Albert Lea, and I'm coming to you this evening to talk about choice. One of the misconceptions that we've heard is that employees feel this may limit their choice for their healthcare needs. So from a Mrs. Jerry standpoint, we offer a choice both in a mail plan or a non-mail plan for all of our employees. Regardless of which plan the employee chooses, as long as they're a full-time employee of Mrs. Jerry's, they can utilize our healthcare plan and utilize the clinic with their dependents. Some of the choices that we did not have prior to Mercy One coming to town was our clinic did not have a triage urgent care, as well as a work-related injury program that we can send work-related injuries to. They did not have x-ray on site, which Mercy One does in the case you need a picture taken of something. We did not have access to primary care doctors. And overall, lower costs for employees and employer, which allows HSA dollars to go further. So from a choice standpoint, the choice to add additional services, lower costs, and support competition for our healthcare needs, this really was a no-brainer for Mrs. Jerry's. And one last thing. In regard to referrals, if people are concerned they'll have no choice where they're referred to if they go with Mercy, ask Health Partners to provide a report showing which provider the referrals are going to. Our guess is it will show a large percentage going to mail, but now you will have another choice.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Chad. Excuse me. Number 3 is, can't be number 2. We've already heard from number. Oh, I'm sorry, I misread that. We will go with 7 since I mistakenly thought that the 7 was a 2. So let's go with number 7, which is Philip Johnson. And those intriguing sounds you hear are an indication that your 2 minutes are up. So.
Well, thank you for having me, and as you can expect, I'm here along with the rest of the crew here tonight to kind of talk on the same issue. Since I've been here, this has been a very intriguing and challenging issue for our whole community. I think it puts everybody in somewhat of a position, but there's good reasons for that. I think it says a lot if you look around the room and you hear the people coming up to speak, and a lot of them are the major employers in this area who support this. They support it, because it has the potential to affect lowering costs, which puts them at an advantage from a financial standpoint. In economic development, this is crucial for us in this area in order to retain, grow, and attract businesses, because when you look at other areas, we'll have this as something to differentiate between us and them, which puts you on a level playing field and gets you a little bit ahead. So I would ask, whether it be at this process or the next process when you're reviewing RFPs, I don't know specifically where you were at, I'd heard a couple different things, that, you know, in reviewing this, that you look at it from a community-wide standpoint. I know right now and through your own process, you're looking at it through what benefits your employees the most, as most employers do. But if you look at it from a community-wide aspect, I think that you'll see that not only in the potential of lowering those costs, you'll benefit the community, but you'll benefit your employees as well. Because what benefits communities benefits your employees, just like a well-run school district benefits our community. So I thank you for your time and your consideration, and that you look at it from that aspect rather than just the aspect that you generally look at it, and really hear from the different employers who are saying and kind of voicing their opinion about this, because at the end of the day, a lot of them understand the bottom line of what insurance costs mean to this community, and as you guys do when you look at this from a financial aspect. So thank you for your time, and thank you for looking into this situation.
First off, I want to say thank you. I appreciate all of your time and energies that you invest with our children. It means a lot to live in this small community. But I'm up here to talk about experiences at Crossroads Trailer, where I'm the president of the company, and some of the challenges that we run into every year, year in and year out, with health insurance costs. We, similar to Chad at Mrs. Jerry's, we chose to do an option where it was Mayo in and Mayo out, because every year, without a doubt, we would see upwards of 10+% increases of our health insurance. And that was forcing us as an employer to subsidize, increase salaries, which potentially has a harm on the business as a whole. But when we chose to go with the Mayo out option, we almost had 100% participation rate, knowing that each individual would have to drive to Mason City for additional procedures and whatnot. But now that the clinic is up and operational, we've had just glowing reviews from everybody that has experienced this, and I'm one of them. But our rates were, without taking Mayo out of our network, was 27% reduction. And I know a lot of other individuals here can share that same sentiment about the cost savings to have Mayo out, which is a big plus for us to have quality, affordable health care for our employees and our citizens. It's troubling when I do year-end reviews with each employee and give them a sizable rate increase of somewhere between $2,000 and $10,000, and some of that, or in some cases, all of that gets wiped out, or it was wiped out with increased medical costs. That affects all the small business in our town, because our employees and the people that we work with don't have the disposable income to invest in communities and services and all that. Whereas now, with the option of excluding Mayo, we do have that option, and it's a benefit to the businesses, it's a benefit to the employees, and it's a benefit to all the other small businesses in the community that we all cherish and love to have and to work with. So thank you for your time, and we appreciate you looking into this.
Thank you. All right, number 10 is Andrea Jensen.
Hello, I'm Andrea Jensen, and I am a trustee with the Albert Lea Healthcare Coalition. And I'm looking at your mission statement up there, and so I want to read you ours. Our mission statement is to establish and promote the overall health and wellness of the residents of Albert Lea, Freeborn County, and the surrounding area. This objective includes the promotion of healthcare market competition, the expansion of access to essential healthcare services, and the improvement of healthcare outcomes for the residents of Albert Lea, Freeborn County, and the surrounding area. Our core values are transparency, integrity, respectful, community-focused, and collaborative. And I just wanted to read all that because I think there's been a lot of conversation in a lot of social media places that don't reflect what we are. We have no control over what people say, and nobody's going to engage in a conversation on that on social media. It makes no sense. So I just wanted to come read to all of you what our statement was, what we stand for. So I thank you for your time.
And thank you, Andrea. Number 6 is number 6. Steve Tufty.
Hello, I'm Steve Tufty. I'm the CFO at Innovance. I spoke at the insurance committee meeting and would like to give the board a summary of what was presented that night. Innovance had a worksite clinic with Mrs. Jerry's and 3 other companies for almost as long as the school district has had their clinic. Our clinic had the same setup with the provider, pharmacy, and no-cost billing to the employee. We decided to close our clinic when Mercy set up their business clinic services. In addition, we have a contract with the Twin City Orthopedic, which provides us with a one lump sum billing for any orthopedic type surgery such as knees, hips, and shoulders. The cost is very similar to what Mercy has provided on a rate comparison sheet with Mayo. This has saved the company tens of thousands of dollars, and employees pay nothing for using this plan. We also do biometric testing for employees to provide them with incentive dollars for passing or improving their scores. I tell you all this because we have implemented all this to try and reduce or at least limit the increase in our annual medical costs. But we're reaching a limit as to what we can do as an individual company. We now need other organizations within the community to help us generate the patient volume that will help drive Mercy to provide full-scale imaging, additional services, and hours for specialties, let alone looking down the road to surgery at the site. These services are where significant savings will be realized annually, not only from Innovance, but other organizations and individuals in the community. To give perspective on the dollar volume we're talking about, if you take Innovance's annual medical spend and consider that we are charged anywhere from 20 to 30% more than the rest of the state, that equates to Innovance spending between $900,000 and $1 million more annually on medical costs. You take those extra costs across the whole county, and you're talking many millions of dollars of additional spend. So we need that extra volume to expand their services and provide choice for the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. 7 is number 3, and that is Al Aarons.
Al Aarons, a citizen of Alberley for 57 years, and I thank you for the opportunity to talk to you very quickly and briefly. First, I want to congratulate Dr. Funk for everything that he's accomplished while he's been here. I can remember the first year or two he was here that he had ran into quite a few difficulties, but he weathered that storm, and because of that, and because of running a fine school district, he was named Superintendent of the Year for the state of Minnesota, and we congratulate you with that. And I'm sure that was helpful in attaining your new position, and we congratulate you for that.
Appreciate that.
You'll be hard to replace, but it's necessary to be done. You know, I've been here for 57 years, and I've never seen such better cooperation between the school district and the community. Whenever there's been something come up, the community has always been behind the school district. And because of it, we put out an exceptional amount, a good value of students. I've had 3 of my children graduate from Alberley High School, and I couldn't say anything but good things about it. But the important thing is that cooperation between the school district and the community, between the community and the school district, remain very strong, and that's a two-way street. It's not just dependent upon the community, but it also depends upon the school district. And so I just want to sincerely hope that that cooperation between the community and the school district continues, because who wins by that are our children. So thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Al. Let's see, what are we on? 8 now? 8 is number 5, which is Jill Morstead.
Good evening, everyone. I appreciate the opportunity to be here. My name is Jill Morstead. I'm a retired RN. And I'm here to talk about that there is currently an opportunity to be considered. Mercy One has shown commitment to the Albert Lea community and the growth of healthcare services here. Their leadership has demonstrated dedication to the vision of growth. The established workforce clinic at Mercy One already offers ease of access to care through a separate entrance. A nurse practitioner or a physician assistant provides care with a physician consult readily available if needed. Lab and x-ray services are on site, and so is mobile MRI. Those are already currently happening. The Mercy One Clinic also currently offers appointments with specialty care right here in Albert Lea. Those specialty care physicians and entities include cardiology. They're offering echocardiograms, stress tests, heart monitoring. They also have established a relationship with the University of Minnesota cardiology department, and also with their pediatric cardiology department. The other specialties that are already functioning at the Mercy One Clinic are urology, ear, nose, and throat, sleep medicine, orthopedics, dermatology, plastic surgery, and coming soon, podiatry and bariatric weight management. So I just want you to have an awareness about those things. All of the options that are offered through this whole process deserve a close look into the facts, as this decision is considered by all individuals involved, and I thank you for continuing to look into that.
And thank you, Jill. We are now on number 9, which is 4, and that is Mr. Biggie, Dr. Bill Biggie.
Good evening. Bill Biggie, an old, worn-out, retired family physician that chose to stay in town over 20 years after I retired. And you may wonder why I'm here. I wonder why I'm here. And I guess I'm still concerned with the quality of health care that our people in the community get and how much it costs them. You're off to a really good start here with your local clinic. I've been there. I know you're a provider there. I've known her since she was a little kid. I've been a patient of hers. And she is just doing a bang-up job, and you're very lucky to have that facility and that person running it. I just love to work there. However, you know, it's very limited. You can take care of the common everyday problems that people have. But as you know, the provision of medical care there is quite limited, and a lot of people get referred out. And that's a good thing. And they have the choice of where to go. If we work out a deal with Mercy One, they'll still have the choice of where to go. And we're also lucky to have these choices available. I don't know anywhere that there is as much good medical care available as right here. I left Albert Lea, went to Pennsylvania for 5 years, and came back. And while I was there, I ran a family medicine residency program. And part of my job was to place these residents where they have a good job and do a good work. And I don't know of any two that were any greater, I don't know of any we had that were any greater than the two physicians you have here, Dr. Letzko and Dr. Heine, and the second level people we have, and the equipment that's available in the clinic here. We pay attention to the fact that Mayo just dumped $15 million to do a little renovating. We built the whole damn clinic for $6. And I hope that you continue to pursue the association with Mercy One. It's going to be good for the community and your docs, and the docs and your teachers.
Thank you. And number 10 is number 8, which is Charles Newell.
Good evening, and thank you for this opportunity. My name is Charlie Newell, and I am president of Minnesota Freezer Warehouse Company here in Albert Lea. And I would like to echo on what Jill was talking about, commitment of Mercy One to the community. Besides the business clinic, I know Mercy One is out talking in the community to businesses about 2 health initiatives. One is the EAP program, and also they're talking about the Mercy One Wellbeing Platform. The EAP program through Caring Bridge and Mercy One is the Employee Assistance Program, and basically it allows employees who are signed up to talk to counselors to help with stressful situations, financial problems, psychological issues, substance abuse issues, legal troubles, and family personal issues. I know this matters because these issues are occurring at where I work, and it's happening more frequent than I would like to admit. And because of that, it's impacting our productivity, and it's affecting our bottom line. I can only assume other businesses, and I can only assume the school district has similar concerns on that. I know I'm reviewing the policy right now on the EAP program with Mercy One. And lastly, the Mercy One Wellbeing Platform allows a all-in-one package to work with individuals to have one place to get healthy information, health surveys, group challenges, individual challenges, to download your wearable device integration for tracking, reporting, and communicating, and lastly, biometric screening. I know these matter because they allow this community to understand what the greatest asset is, and it's our citizens and residents of this community. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Newell. That completes our forum. Next on the agenda are the consent items.
Approval.
Approval of today's agenda.
I move to approve today's agenda.
It's been moved that we approve today's agenda. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Bruce Olson seconds. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye, or raise your hand, Jill. Jill votes aye. Okay, now the consent items.
I move to approve the consent item.
Second.
Been moved and seconded, but that we approve the consent items. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Reports. We'll begin with Dr. Funk.
Just 2 things tonight. We are talking health insurance tonight, and great news for the board later a little bit later in the meeting. But we are going to have a 0% renewal for our insurance, and that is pretty rare for us as a school district. A lot of the credit goes to Jennifer Walsh and Aaron Casper, our insurance consultant, who have really put us in a self-insured situation, which is saving the district considerable amount of dollars. So that's great news. And the second thing is, April is typically this meeting in April is typically my least favorite meeting in the school year, because this is when we make significant budget adjustments usually for the upcoming year. I'm happy to say that we have no significant adjustments for you tonight, and staff is minimally impacted by that. So I think good news on a financial front from both just general operations and from the insurance side. Thank you.
All right, let's begin with this side of the table, and Mr. Jeffrey, teacher report. You get to go first.
Is this on? It is on. Mr. Score, thank you so much. Yeah, I've reached out to many of my colleagues regarding this meeting and just wanted to run down a few things. I'll try to be as brief as possible. The elementary teachers said that they are able to get out and get some field trips in with their kids, and they're really enjoying that, and hopefully the weather will help that. We've had some field trips too with the high school and getting to the ethanol plant and the Freeborn County Jail for our criminology class, so that's been great as well. Jim Haney's class has taken his humanities socials class once again to the Freeborn County Historical Museum, where they have the kids actually teach fifth graders, and we get fifth graders from around our district as well as surrounding districts as well. And that's been, they had juniors and seniors this year for the first time because last year they were unable to do that. So the seniors were able to participate, which they really enjoyed. So that's really neat. We have some of our English classes collaborating with our elementary schools in a pen pal situation, so they get to write back and forth, which has been pretty successful, and some neat stories there as well. We have the spring musical coming up, A Year with Frog and Toad, which is on May 6th, 7th, and 8th. Miss Haney is doing a wonderful job with that, and they have another, they got to add the spring musical this year, so they appreciate working with the kids again and seeing their smiling faces on stage. Let's see, Big Nine Music is on its way. I think that is next week. If anybody can help out the weather to get our sports teams outside, if any of you have a poll there, I think Mr. Durbaum would appreciate that as well. Just want to give a shout out to some people at the high school. Sean Gaston, who has taken over the MCA testing as well as the access testing with Quinn and Saw. We've had a great seamless opportunities when that has come to testing. They've done a great job. Sean's done a great job there. And Jess Hatlin and Claire Bradley and our counselors with the ACT and the ASVAB and the AccuPlacer, they've done a fantastic job there, as well as working with scholarships, and just the two of them have taken that on and really have done a great job. So we appreciate them for doing all that work there. AP testing is fast approaching, first part of May, as we lead up into graduation for our seniors. Let's see here. Wind Down Wednesday is coming back. If you haven't heard, that's going to be an awesome opportunity. ALEA will have a booth. Again, we'll be giving away books to kids in the community as we have done in the past. So that will be fun to be back outside again and helping out our students here in surrounding areas as well. The last thing I just want to leave you with is I'm not sure. I know that other representatives that have been here have talked about the virtual day, and they're fantastic. I just want you to know that as well. But I really want you to take the opportunity to read the alahasa.com story written by one of our students on the virtual day. If you would take 5 to 10 minutes to do that, you'll get to see a side from a student's perspective on those days as well. So I think Dr. Funk said a couple board meetings ago, nothing is normal anymore. The normal is changing, and I think that I think there's opportunities for us and things that we have done to continue or even refine to make things in education better for our students going forward. So that's all I have for you, and I appreciate you allowing me to have a little time here.
Thank you, Max. Angie.
All right, still on. I attended 2 insurance committee meetings, and I'm not normally a part of the insurance committee, but I had heard there was some discussion coming up on on some proposals for a clinic, whether we're going to have Mercy manage that or Health Partners or Mayo. And so I was able to come to that and listen and learn. Found that very interesting. The first meeting we had heard proposals, one from Mayo, one from Health Partners, who we work with now, and one from Mercy. And then the last meeting, which was last week, was just a follow-up on that. So that's all I have.
Just a minute, Dennis. Jill, do you have a report? You're between Angie and Dennis. So.
Thank you. Yes, I wanted to say thank you to everybody who spoke at the open forum, and I do appreciate our longer open forum guidelines. 30 minutes, I think, is reasonable. I appreciate that. I have no committees to report. I have been getting a lot of public input on a lot of different issues, and so I always appreciate that. Thank you.
Jill, in case you didn't know, is currently in Arizona, which probably explains her smiley demeanor. Now, Dennis.
Thank you. Again, thank you for the open forum for all the speakers. It's good to hear everybody's input. We had a business ed meeting. I was not able to be at that, so I'm hoping that Kim was there, which is good. And then I did have a meeting in regards to the food services, which we will be voting on tonight, which was a really good meeting, actually very educational. So that's all I got.
Kim.
Thank you, Chairman Score. I attended the Teacher of the Year reception on April 6th. Congratulations to Burke. I attended Phase 3 training virtually, and that's a training that's for school board members. And this focuses on building high-performance teams, specifically school boards, navigating board dynamic styles and just getting to understand self-assessment and evaluation. So I'm looking forward to being able to maybe do some of that work at a retreat in future date. I attended the Business Ed Committee meeting. Leadership Albert Lee is coming back this fall, so if you know of anyone that would be good to be in Leadership Albert Lee, please look at the Chamber's website for that. There's a workforce forum on April 28th. If anybody's interested in attending that, I have the link for that and can get you registered. And then we also are presenting to the HR committee for Albert Lee and the Freeborn County area on being a poverty-informed community, and I kind of touched on that in past meetings. I also attended the Education Foundation meeting on April 13th. We discussed scholarships, and like Max indicated, they're really going well this year, very organized, and we're looking forward to being in person for that presentation. We also talked about a digital display, and I'll let you cover that because you know more about that. And then we started to talk about distinguished alumni and distinguished educators. Please go to that website and think about someone you might want to nominate for those awards. And then we are looking at having a board retreat for the Education Foundation to set the groundwork for the next 5 years strategic planning. I also attended the National School Board Conference on April 2nd through the 4th, and I'm excited to talk about, again, having a board retreat where we can talk about board governance, community partnerships, also demographic trends throughout the country and actually here in our area. And I also just wanted to leave with one more statement from that. A takeaway that I had was it only takes one person to make a difference. So think about that for all of us. I also have, this is my last update, I promise, but I've been helping with the grant writing of the Inclusive Playground, and I thought it would be good since they came and did an update to update the board on where they're at. To date, they've raised $70,000 in grants and business partnerships and some fundraisers. Specifically, Mayo and the Cuppage Foundation gave donations recently. And the city has committed $350,000, and they have a grant into the DNR for $300,000. They're looking at fundraisers and to incorporate that with the school. So if anybody has any ideas on how they can work together, get in touch with me, or Sarah Stoltz is kind of my contact. And then any ideas, they do have a Facebook page, and they'd be happy to share, for you to share any ideas you have on ways they can fundraise. And donations are accepted through the Albert Lee Freeborn County Chamber Foundation. So if you're so inclined to donate, please do so. It's a great project here for our community. And I think that's it.
Thank you, Board Member Nelson. Well, it's been a busy week for me also. I think the last Wednesday, the 13th of April, which is the cruelest month, as Dr. Funk pointed out, I attended 5 meetings. The first was at 8:30 at the high school with Jessica Hatland, and everything that people have said about her is true. She has done a really excellent job of simplifying and organizing that rather complicated and intimidating adventure of distributing well over 100, close to 150, I think, scholarships among our high school seniors. And I was a part of that selection committee. This was kind of a throwback to the old days when I was also a part of that committee when I was on the staff at the high school. And some of my cronies are still there, like Kevin Gentz and Wendy Kessler and Diane Haney and Jim Haney would have been there had he not been where Max pointed out. He was at the historical museum with his students. So we accomplished that task, and I was really impressed with our senior class. The applications were incredible. One after another, just produced resumes and good candidates. All right. So from there, I went to Owatonna, where I attended a Minnesota State High School League Section 2, I think, AA committee, which I will forego with good discussions, mostly on recommendations to the board of directors for changes, alterations to various activities in their state tournaments, mostly. I attended the insurance committee, which Angie pointed out, and also Ed Foundation meeting, which Kim discussed. And I would, it's Education Foundation of Albert Lee, EFAL. Google that, find their website, and please push the button, download the application or the nomination form for Distinguished Alumni and Distinguished Educator. Our banquet is, not banquet, our reception is October 13th, I believe, at Wedgwood Cove. And that's a process which is a lot of work, but it's very rewarding as well. The digital display, Mr. Dibble has been very enthusiastic in his assistance. I came up with this idea a long time ago because I was sick of plaques that are cluttering up walls in the high school, and so it occurred to me that a better alternative would be to have some interactive digital display. I've seen it in other schools, and it looks good, it works well, and you can put any information you want about your dance club, upcoming school plays, whatever, along with the distinguished educators, distinguished alumni, and Athletic Hall of Fame honorees, all of that. We found Jerry Nelson found a donor who was willing to contribute loose change to the amount of $25,000 to fund this project, and that is more than adequate. And in addition to one digital display screen outside the auditorium at the high school, somewhere in the neighborhood of 7 displays, huge screens similar to that one, not quite that big, would be placed in locker bays and so on throughout the building so that students could have the announcements scrolled across on a daily basis. I believe that's enough.
Was that all your 5 meetings?
Sorry, thank you. That was very productive. We reached a tentative agreement with the paras, which was very, very, very rewarding.
Just a couple things. First, thanks again to the community for the information we received tonight. It's always good to hear, as we all know, how social media can act. It's good to get some clarification to things that may have been said. I also attended the National School Board Association Conference over the first part of April, and as Kim said, be looking forward to speaking more about that at her upcoming retreat. Did have one takeaway that I thought was kind of interesting, and then a couple community things. One person, one of our groups made the comment, he says, do we want to be loud and heard, or do we want to make an impact? And I thought that was very interesting in our meeting where we're talking about, as we found out that our school district isn't any different from probably any other school district in the state of Minnesota with what went on last year. And again, dealing with the different issues that are going on in this country. Again, as Kim mentioned, collaboration, governance, making a nice, smooth, rolling board. And finally, again, just the uniqueness that we think sometimes we have, we really don't as a district. Fun to see across the country what everybody is experiencing. Thanks.
Thank you.
I attended a Freeborn County Collaborative meeting, a very good meeting. Healthy Families gave us an update what they've been doing since 1988 in Freeborn County, how they've been helping children and families. Minnesota Department of Health funds this program. A statistic to me that was a little bit alarming, in 2019, 13% of the children in Freeborn County under the age of 18 live in poverty. And they said that's down from years ago, and I think 13% is quite high. We approved 2 funding requests, post-prom party for Alden Conger and after-grad party for Albert Lee. And then we're going to be sending letters to the seniors in Freeborn County promoting a safe, alcohol-free, and drug-free end-of-the-year season, be it with the prom or with after-grad parties. I attended the Teacher of the Year reception, which is always fun. And I attended Tigers Roar and some sporting events. It's really nice to see young people enjoying themselves, either dancing or playing an instrument or singing or participating in the sport and really enjoying themselves. It was a thrill to watch that show and attend those events.
Okay, thank you. Next, safe and healthy schools. I don't see anything listed there. Curriculum and instruction, effective and efficient operations, resolution relating to the termination of non-renewal of teaching contract. Kathy Niebuhr.
So in front of you, you have a resolution for the non-renewal of 1 probationary staff member across the district. At the top of that document is the resolution for the termination. And then the bottom of the document is the notice that goes to the employee tomorrow. And this employee is aware of the termination, non-renewal. Any questions?
Okay, this is an action item. Do I hear a motion in support of the resolution?
I'll move to approve the resolution.
Been moved that we approve the resolution. Is there a second to that motion? Seconded by Kim. Any discussion? You've all had an opportunity to study this document. Hearing no discussion then, this requires a roll call vote. We'll begin with Bruce.
Aye.
Dave?
Aye.
Chair votes aye.
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 Jill?
Aye.
Kanji? Aye. Motion carries 7-0. Next on the agenda is a resolution placing a staff member on unrequested leave of absence, and also presented by Kathy.
So this is an employee who is in a position that we are discontinuing the position. This employee is also aware that this position will be discontinued. So we'll be placing this employee on unrequested leave of absence. It's a 2-part resolution in that today. The resolution indicates that the board moves forward with proposing placement on unrequested leave of absence. This employee has 14 days to request a hearing to challenge her proposed placement on ULA. If you hear none in 14 days, we'll come back and take final action on the unrequested leave of absence due to discontinuing the position.
Okay, once again, you've had an opportunity to study this document. I would entertain a motion in favor of the resolution.
So moved.
Moved by Dennis Deezer. Do I hear a second? Seconded by Dave Clott. Any discussion? Hearing none, this also requires a roll call vote. We'll begin with Bruce again.
Aye.
Chair votes aye.
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 Jill?
Aye.
And 7-0.
Thank you.
Motion carries. 11.3, approval accepting Compass Group USA Cartwell's as a food service manager.
Thank you. So we are required every 5 years to go out for bid for our food service management contract. And so this was the year. It was quite a lengthy process. There was a required meeting. We had 3 companies show up, and all 3 of those companies did submit a bid. Those were Chartwell's or Compass Group, our current provider, Taher, and SFE. Jolene Svensson and I, she is our food service coordinator, examined the proposals and preliminarily scored them on the bid point calculator that I attached to the board agenda. And then I subsequently met with Dennis Deezer, and Mary Jo Dorman sat in, and I reviewed the proposals and the preliminary scoring that Jolene and I had already done. I would recommend, based on the bid point calculator results and our excellent partnership with Chartwell's, that we enter into a contract with them for the 22-23 school year, and that will be pending MDE approval. You will see that they had a slightly higher proposal as far as the fee goes, but then when we looked at the other components that were scored, and we, again, enjoy such an excellent partnership with them, they scored higher than Taher in those other areas. I do want to just mention, too, financially, how well our food service fund has done. When I came in July of 2019, we had about $124,000 fund balance, and that is now, as of the end of last year, over $429,000, and I expect that to grow by maybe even another couple $100,000, and that's even with ordering significant new equipment to replace our old equipment. So I'm asking the board to approve awarding the contract to Compass Group Chartwell's.
Dennis, would you like to move to accept his recommendation?
Yeah, and I would just comment, I was very impressed with the processing going through, and I think if you look at it, the difference in dollar, Chartwell got a 99 points out of the 100. The work that they've done in our community these past 2 years with COVID, with the free lunches, the distribution, the management team that they have here. I know we had a turnover of staff, and with that staff being gone, we really didn't miss a beat with the work that they did. Their references are very credible, and I just think that leadership piece was huge. So with that, I would move approval.
Okay, thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Further discussion or questions?
Yeah, just a couple quick questions. Jennifer, was this the point? Oh, let me go back on this first. You said every 5 years.
Right.
But you only mentioned the contract for 22-23. Does that mean each year then we renew?
Yes, so we can renew up to 4 years, and then we have to go back out for bid again.
And if there was a question, can you go out for bid within that 5 years?
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
It's
And
not
then-
an automatic renewal.
Right, okay. And then on the point calculator, is that something that we've used in the past? The same points that we calculated? It's a subjective, or is it a 1 to 5, 1 to 10 scoring system?
It's a 1 to 10. Oh, well, you can see on the non-price points over there on the far left column are the number of points that are awarded for each of those items. The Department of Education requires that price have the single largest point possible, so that was the 25. And then they provide districts some discretion on the other points, but these were all criteria that they suggested that the school district looks at, And then we had the opportunity to kind of assign the non-point or the non-price points to those based on the things that we know are important. You know, our district manager, our food service manager that we have on site, the integrity of their financial projections, you know, and we know that Chartwell's has done such an excellent job on that. The marketing and purchasing plan, relatively small amount of points there. All the companies have the ability to do a really nice job on that. But I will say Chartwell's in this last year has invested probably about $30,000 at our high school and our middle school. All new signage, new lighting. They paid for the painting of those. And so it's really makes it a more inviting atmosphere for our students.
Any other questions or discussion? Oh, Jill.
Thank you. Jennifer, as the fund balance grows in food service, what will that be used for potentially?
Well, we can use it for a couple of things, to replace a lot of very old equipment. Most of the equipment that we have is original to some of the buildings, and so this provides us a really great opportunity for our ovens and our steamers and our serving lines to be able to use those funds. It will also allow us, if it does not continue, that students can eat for free. It allows us an opportunity, if we have a healthy fund balance, not to have to raise meal prices as much as would normally be required.
Thank you.
Angie.
Buttons, okay. I'm on now. Just a quick question on the fund balance. What is the main cause for the success in that area? Where's the money coming from? Or?
Well, we get reimbursements. These last 2 years, we have gotten reimbursements from the federal government because all children are eating free. And so we have just been able to manage those higher than usual reimbursements and keeping our costs at a static level. And so that's how we've managed to grow the fund balance.
We also get, that's one of the categories of state funding, also food service.
Yes, we do also get from the state, but these last couple of years it's been primarily from the federal government.
Okay.
One other one, Jennifer, a couple of years pre-COVID, when Chartwell was here for a presentation, I had asked once about the food waste that goes on.
Oh, okay.
And they were going to do a study for us and present it. Never heard back. I know COVID hit, so it was kind of hard with sack lunches to figure that out. But I would encourage to look into that maybe now as we get back to a little bit more normal, just because I had heard there's quite a bit of food waste. And there's also some of the unopened items in that might be able to be used at different food banks or something like that to be donated. And I know they had mentioned that would be a potential to do too.
Right.
Some things, obviously the fruits and the veggies you can't, but there were some things. So if there's anything they can do, they acted like they had a program there.
Okay.
But,
you know, we have a new food service manager since then, so I will talk to Travis, our current food service manager, and our district manager about what kind of programs that might be available for that.
Aye.
Approve results of the RFP for third-party administration health insurance loss provider.
Yeah, so we have actually several items here coming up on the agenda. Aaron Casper from National Insurance Services will be addressing all of these, and we will both be available for any questions.
Thank you. Chair Score, members of the board, and Dr. Funk, thank you for having me tonight. So we're going to start out with item on the agenda 11.4. This is the result of our statutorily required Health Insurance Transparency Act bid for third-party administration. And as Dr. Funk alluded to earlier, we're going to be completing our second year of being in a self-insured environment at the end of June. And we're required to go out for this bid every 2 years. So essentially, any group that doesn't have the Public Employees Insurance Program needs to go out to bid every 2 years unless their largest bargaining unit agrees to waive that bid process right. So we did that, and essentially we received 4 competitive proposals. Our incumbent, Blue Cross Blue Shield, Medica Direct, PEEP, the Public Employees Insurance Program, as well as United Healthcare. All of those proposals were competitive. PEEP was not in contention, just merely from the fact that essentially it was they came right on top of our current rates, but it is a limited network and a referral system, and a little bit more complex than the open access network that we have today through Blue Cross Blue Shield as our administrator. United Healthcare and Medica were also competitive, but given Blue Cross Blue Shield's position in the market in terms of their network discount in this area, being Mayo Country, as well as the fact that they were within $100,000 of one another on the aggregate, it was our recommendation at National Insurance Services to remain where we're at with the incumbent carrier, Blue Cross Blue Shield. So I would certainly entertain any questions, but we would recommend that you approve Blue Cross Blue Shield as the plan administrator.
All right, let's have a motion on the table to approve this recommendation, and then we can enter into questions and discussion. Do I hear a motion to approve? Moved by Kim Nelson to approve. Is there a second? Bruce, you don't get a chance to speak up. Seconded by Bruce Olson. Now, questions or discussion?
I would like to add that all of these items were discussed at our insurance committee meetings. We have had 2 meetings in the last couple of weeks, and we have representatives from all of our bargaining groups that are part of that committee.
And I was as was Angie, at those committee meetings, and the committee was pretty enthusiastic in their support of this arrangement.
I do have a question. Jennifer was kind enough to have a phone call with me earlier today and answer a whole bunch of questions I had. And the one thing we had talked about was kind of something that a couple of the speakers had touched on. Chad Vogt and I think Mark Hobbin had both mentioned the idea of having a Mayo plan and a non-Mayo plan. And I was just wondering, we talked about that a little bit. Could that information about something we could possibly do in the future be discussed for the board?
Yeah, so Director Huffman, I'd be happy to address that question. It's a very good question. So you had a number of speakers tonight talk about, a male-only plan as an employee choice. So currently, today, the employees at Albert Lee Schools have what's called an open access network. So what that means is that they can choose where they would like to go for their care, for themselves, their spouses, and then their dependent children. The option to either eliminate Mayo from a network, which would obviously reduce costs, would be called an ACO, or a narrower network option. We do not have that option here. We could certainly have that option here, but what I would tell you as we go into the next agenda item, when you do that and you supply the 2 different network options side by side, you will generally have people lean over to the narrower network if they're healthier, which makes sense, right? We, as a self-insured group, need to be a little bit careful there because we need to protect revenue now. So, and the reason we need to protect revenue is so that we can have long-term stability in our plan. So I would say that this is something we certainly could look at in the future, and I would probably peg that at within 24 to 36 months. And certainly if we continue on our trajectory how we're running and how we're reserving, we could even move that discussion up. But you kind of have, I would say, adverse selection in that environment. it's good for the employee. We just have to be cognizant of the plan, for the health of the plan, which I'm charged for maintaining on the district's behalf. So it's kind of a balancing point there. So I would say, ultimately, Director Hoffman, that, that's something we can look at, but it's not something that we've needed to do out of necessity at this point to try to narrow that down. And again, even in a fully insured environment or another self-insured environment, you can have reductions in revenue, which we need to be aware of.
Okay, thank you.
Aaron, just a question. I'm sure you probably work with more than one health insurance plan, school district-wise. How does this open access plan work compared to the other options you may, or do you have all open access plans? How does it fit into the scheme of things and who you consult with?
Yeah, so great question. You're correct. We work organizationally with 8 out of 10 school districts in the state of Minnesota in some capacity or another. We represent currently 75 school districts, ranging anywhere from 7,500 employees down to 50 employees. Various amounts of types of insurance, whether it be fully insured environment where you're working direct with a carrier, self-insured like we are here, where we are essentially taking on the risk, certainly with some protections, of course, and then also with pooled plans, where there might be some cooperative plans out there through the Minnesota Healthcare Consortium or Sourcewell up out of Staples, Minnesota. So we've got a bunch of different plans. Specifically to your question, we have groups that have narrower network options within their product offering. And then we also have many districts that also have the open access network that we have here. And one thing that I would point out is we're in a unique environment in the K through 12 marketplace because we have collectively bargained contracts. Oftentimes, those collectively bargained contracts stipulate what needs to be offered. And one thing that spurred on the Health Insurance Transparency Act was a lawsuit that came out of West St. Paul when there was an administrative move to change networks, not even plans, but just networks. And there was an aggregate value reduction, so an actuarial reduction in the value of the network that was being offered. So if we were to unilaterally, as an example, just get rid of open access and go to a narrower network option and not have the open access, we would definitely have some action against us, right, doing that. So districts will deploy that type of strategy oftentimes in an environment where they're trying to mitigate increasing costs, right? Seldom is it in a self-insured environment. Usually it's in a fully insured environment. But I would say maybe 20% of our groups, just kind of off the top of my head, deploy a narrower network option. This should be an easy one. So real quick, we're in a very good position. As I mentioned earlier, we are fortunate to come very close to nearing 2 years of being in a self-insured environment. And I would say a couple different things have occurred. Number one, our experience or our claims history has improved. So that's good. The other thing is I believe we're appropriately priced. And that's why we're bringing forward a zero increase recommendation for the 2022-23 plan year. We've been able to, in that span of time, reserve just under 35% of our total spend in that time, which is phenomenal. Really what that does for the school district and for the employees on a go-forward basis is it puts us in a position to where because we are going to have oscillations, right? So we are going to kind of come back up on that crest at some point. We just don't know when. When we have those oscillations and we are calling for an increase, if we are reserved appropriately and effectively, we're going to be able to try to mitigate that increase, right? So we don't want to grow that Fund 20 reserve too much, but we certainly don't want to have it too small. A target would realistically be within that 25 to 40% range, and so we're nearing already that 40% target on the top end. Now, I would tell you also that we have many standalone self-insured groups, and we had a group that we just recently took over in 2021, and they're 100% funded. And that was strategic with their collectively bargain units in tow and on board, and their administration, and certainly they're in a different place to be able to deploy some different strategies on behalf of their beneficiaries. And I would just point out for just the education of the board that these reserve dollars are, although held by the district and ultimately they're responsible for those dollars can only be used for the beneficiaries of the plan. So it's the employees of the district and their spouses and their dependents. So we can deploy different types of programs that are unique to them, for their purpose, and that absolutely can be used in an environment where it's very difficult to attract and or retain quality employees. We can start having a differentiator in addition to some other things that we have going on here at the district with respect to your second largest cost bucket on your budget. So we would recommend and propose that you approve the zero increase for 2022-23 plan year. So, thank you, Chairman Score. So, 11.6, really, this is probably another layup for us. We did go out to bid the dental insurance. The vast majority of our plan is voluntary, as it indicates on the board agenda. We have one individual employee that has a slight district contribution to that. Irrespective of that, it makes sense to go out and just shop the market from a due diligence perspective on occasion. We did that. We received competitive proposals. However, at the end of the day, the differential between the premiums that would be paid by the employees and the potential network disruption to the employees relative to the dentists that would be covered in the network didn't warrant a change. So we would recommend that you would accept the voluntary dental program as presented in the packet.
Okay, I would entertain a motion to that effect. Move that we accept the recommendation relative to dental insurance. Second. Second. Any discussion or questions? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion to accept the recommendation on dental insurance signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? 7.7, update on clinic RFP. This is a non-action item, but open for discussion.
Okay, Chairman Score, thank you very much. So, as you heard from the community members earlier today for open comment period, essentially I want to just start with a little bit of history. The school district began with their clinic through Health Partners Well at Work Clinic back in 2014. So we are currently in our 8th year of operating our own on-site clinic here at Brookside. So we've had this clinic for a number of years, up until actually this year is probably going to be our first year where we're going to be in the black. We've essentially been receiving some discounting. So it's helping our bottom line because we are in Mayo Country. So essentially, folks are able to go to our clinic, receive care. It's billed through our insurance at a discount. okay, as opposed to going out in the open market. So we're definitely able to save money there. And we've got a bunch of reports that show kind of how we've done over the years. Certainly COVID was not good for us because folks were nervous about coming into the clinic, and we had a practitioner at the time which was a little bit nervous about having people come into the clinic, which is completely reasonable. I think we've made that turn. And in 2021, in the beginning of that year, we started to have conversations with Freeborn County. They had been having conversations internally, and I also work with Freeborn County, about having their own clinic. Obviously, taking a look at the utilization reports here at the Brookside Clinic, it became very evident that we had an opportunity for some partnering. So long story short, we had those conversations in 2021. It was brought to the board back in 2021 for approval to actually have Freeborn County join the Brookside Clinic here at Albert Lee Schools. And that has been a good transition. We're in the 4th month of that partnership, and we are running well. Now, one of the reasons, because some might ask, well, why the timing of an RFP, right? We just brought on a partner. There's recognition certainly from the administration and you folks as board members that this is a political issue. We understand what's going on here in the community. My role in this process is essentially just to handle the process, take in the proposals, evaluate those proposals, and then not stay on the sidelines, but give an opinion. That's what I'm getting paid to do. So we did that. We have a representative insurance committee that Dr. Funk and Ms. Walsh mentioned, and we had 2 different meetings with the full committee. It was very evident after our first meeting, and I know Chair Scory, you were present, and Director Hoffman, you were there as well. When we were getting and receiving the information from Mayo Clinic and Mercy One, as well as Health Partners, after that, the dialogue really gravitated to and taking a look at the numbers and the care options that were available, and really the RFP specifics. Because folks, you know, when we conducted the RFP, Mercy One did not really follow the RFP. They submitted a different proposal. Very difficult to kind of match an apple and an orange in that environment. And we recognize why they did that, right? There's been a substantial outlay in cash for a local clinic that we're certainly well aware of. But we too, as a school district, have made some investments in our own clinic for the past 8 years. And the ask in the RFP was, what could you do for our clinic with our new partner, Freeborn County? So the discussions occurred in those 2 meetings, and we had some public comment also in our very first insurance committee meeting, and that was beneficial, similar to what you heard tonight, which is completely understandable. At our second meeting, we again took a look at the responses that we received and the autonomy that we really have at Albert Lee Schools with respect to running our clinic with our newfound partner, Freeborn County. And there was a general consensus within the room. Actually, it ended up being a unanimous consensus within the room to basically take the RFP, because they were very close. The couple that were in the running was Mayo Clinic, Carrie TC out of Tulsa, Oklahoma, and then Mercy One submitted, and then, of course, Well at Work, our incumbent, to essentially lay aside the RFP and continue on as is, status quo. And the rationale for that is, number one, the school district, because of the partnership with Freeborn County, was going to save right out of the gate between $125,000 to $135,000, just because of that, based on utilization within our clinic. So it was automatically going to be a win for the school district. Number two, there was recognition that we had just made an agreement with Freeborn County to bring them to the table, and that type of communication had gone out to all of the Freeborn County employees, and they are coming to the clinic. It's also been known, just for the board's information, that Freeborn County, in their position, and they certainly have the right to take that position, if we were to disband our clinic or go a different direction, they would probably not likely follow down the road of a Mercy One integration. And I'm not going to speak for Freeborn County, but I just thought that would be warranted to bring up here. So taking a look at the price point, the savings that was on the table, the partnership that was there, That's where we, as a committee, came up with a unanimous recommendation to essentially stay status quo. However, to continue to evaluate what that might look like in the future for Mercy One, to the extent that they were able to maybe come more in line with what we were offering today to not only our employees here at Albert Lea, but also our partner, Freeborn County. And so with that, I would certainly entertain any questions.
Yeah, let me begin. Once again, Aaron, you have very eloquently summarized the situation, and I concur with your analysis and your description of that arrangement. The timing is not particularly good for us to enter into any agreement or arrangement with another partner, especially due to the fact that the RFP was not exactly or wasn't returned from Mercy in the manner that it was submitted by us to them. But you've also pointed out that we're open to future engagements, and again, timing is I see it a rather significant factor. And personally, it's not a secret. I'm in the camp of the coalition and Mercy, but I am also the chair of this school board, and I am in no position to impose my involvement elsewhere on decisions that relate to this district and the decision-making process of this district. So I will not do that. But I'm encouraged and guardedly optimistic that perhaps in the future some arrangement may be made. I see this as an encounter between, hopefully a very friendly encounter between the management of Mercy and the management of District 241. And if those parties can in the future, sometime, reach an agreement that could be brought to the insurance committee and your services, then we'd look at it. And a decision would be made, as the decision was made last week, to proceed in a manner that is consistent with the wishes of those parties that are present.
Have a couple questions. Just to clarify, so around $125,000 is what we, when we partner with Freeborn County, is what we're getting back. And that goes to support that work.
Yeah, that's, so essentially, yeah, we're, depending on which numbers you're looking at, we got a range about $125,000, about a $10,000 deviation. Okay. $125,000 to $135,000. And that is specific for the operation of the clinic, because they have their own insurance arrangement and they're billing separate from us, but we are sharing the facility and we are sharing the cost of actually running the clinic.
And that's money then that stays in our self-insured fund.
Got it.
Yeah, I might interject also. In addition to my previous comments, that the scenario that I have described with meetings between Mercy's management and our management, there has been some activity that has taken place. I do not think this is the place to go into any details, but I'm encouraged to see that communication and that dialogue is in the making.
The other questions that I have. Can you just roughly, how many employees are we talking about, or how many patients are we talking about between the two entities?
So total, I think we're running around 1,300 members. So that's like a belly button description. So a participant would be, let's say, an employee, but in terms of their dependents, around 1,300. And I think just from if my memory serves me correctly, the Mercy One proposal indicated they currently have around 1,800 members.
And then in the RFP that went out, was there a deadline of when what was asked in the RFP, so on-site, all of the requirements, was there a deadline also in there on when receiving that RFP in those parameters was designated?
Yes. Yes, the timelines were outlined in the RFP, correct.
Any other questions or discussion?
Jill has some.
Oh, I'm sorry, Jill. Thank you.
Thank you. It was mentioned that this is a political issue, and Chair Score, you kind of put out your position as well. So just wondering, in the name of transparency, are there any board members or district staff who actually are, they sit on the boards of any of these three entities?
This is, in a sense, a little bit reminiscent of the Civil War, you know, where we have people in the same family on opposite sides. And I might, you know, you mentioned the term political has come up oftentimes as a description of this situation, and to most people, political means Republican versus Democrat. So, I don't think this is partisan in that context. It's partisan in the context that we have interested parties out there, and some perhaps within the same family. Certainly, the family of District 241. I'm sure we have people on both sides of this partisan fence. I exposed my my passion in connection with this, but I'm not. I wouldn't. I don't think we should insist that everybody reveal or their interests are. That's just my opinion.
So is my question answered or not answered?
Well, my comment regarding that is that if someone wishes to present some sort of an attachment to either, or not, you know, I'm sure there are other fringe interests out there that might be present as well. But if anybody is my opinion would be that if anybody is willing or wants to express their attachment to one of the interested parties, I would say absolutely go ahead and express that. But I don't think we should require that people, you know, we take a roll call of where everybody's interests are.
So just to clarify, Jill, so I understand what you're asking, if that's okay. You're wondering if anyone that sits on the school board is also on the board or a committee relating to the county, Mercy, or Save Our Healthcare or Mercy, or Mayo Clinic. That's what you're asking?
No.
Okay.
Thank you for asking that.
Yeah.
So my question was, are there any board members or staff, employees of the district who do sit on the boards of any of these three? So it'd be Mayo, Mercy One, or Health Partners as far as officially on the board. Just wondering how those kind of things would be managed, avoiding any sense of conflict of interest, those just for transparency.
Yeah, by the way, I'm on enough committees and boards, and I am not a director or a trustee of the Healthcare Coalition. I respectfully decline that position, and but my heart's still in that camp.
And is the
Jill, I have been on the Mayo board. However, I was not part of the vote, and I was not present at the insurance committee this past week when they unanimously chose to stay the course with Health Partners.
Thank you.
Any other questions, discussions? Aaron, you look like you want to say something.
No.
Okay. Oh,
Mercy One always wanted the school district to go out to their clinic. They came with an interesting proposal tonight, I thought, where the clinic would stay here 1 year and then move out there in year 2 and 3. It still isn't workable?
Director Olson, I don't know if that's necessarily my decision to make. What I would tell you is that we had a process in place. That process had deadlines, as Director Nelson alluded to, and specifications within the RFP. Those specifications were not met. And the last proposal that was received, I believe, this past Friday on the 14th, which I received via email this morning about 11:45 or 11:30, would definitely be considered outside of those parameters. With that being said, and as was discussed in the committee, there's nothing that would preclude us to take a look at what other options would exist in the future. But as it pertains to this process, I would say that would not fall into the acceptance range of the RFP.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I can piggyback on that. This is what you refer to as an example of the kind of dialogue that is hopefully going to be an ongoing process, which ultimately may result in a different arrangement. But as of now, the committee's recommendation is that we set aside the RFPs, and the result of that would be that we would continue with the current arrangement, which requires no action on our part because that arrangement is in place. If we aren't changing it, we don't have to move to continue it. Okay, Angie?
Okay, and again, thank you, Jennifer, for the phone call. Otherwise, I'd probably have like 20 questions. I only have a few. One, Bruce had touched on the first thing I was going to ask. A community member had mentioned, I think one of the speakers did too, the idea that Mercy had offered to run our clinic here for a year. And talking to Jennifer, it sounded like that isn't what was offered. I was just wondering if that could be commented on, just to clarify.
Yeah, I don't have the email in front of me, but it was a bit confusing. I don't know if Aaron can probably pull it up.
Yeah, and there again, these are potential considerations in an ongoing dialogue, and I would think that
it's almost a moot point to me.
It is that, and it's a conversation which I think is intended for our management and Mercy's management, a dialogue which may be presented to the decision-making process, the insurance committee, and Mr. Casper. But I'm not so sure that this is the place to, in lieu of having, being a party to that dialogue and a part of that conversation, for us to speculate on what if, I think would be
I was just wondering, because I think the perceptions out there, the perception is that Mercy did submit a new bid that met our requirements, and I'm just wanting to see if that is the case or if that is not the case.
So I can direct that or answer that, Dr. Hoffman. So we had, in the RFP, we specifically had our due dates for responses. And I got it today, and I had 4 appointments prior to coming here this evening. So I haven't even reviewed what they sent last Friday and what I received this morning. But I would say that response, as it relates to our process, would fall outside the parameters of that process.
Okay. Another question is, if something does change in the future, because people have commented, we can revisit this in the future. Let's say something does change. What is the process to move forward? Let's say 5 months from now, Mercy says, hey, we can staff your clinic. What does that look like then?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So part of my due diligence is that I asked that question and actually read the contract. The contract that we have with Well at Work is pretty favorable for us. We'd have to give a minimum of a 90-day notice. Even though, this could change, so I'm going to take them at their word, but even though they do have some non-compete language in for our current practitioner, who is fantastic, by the way, and this is not my words, this is our employees and the employees of Freeborn County coming back to us. They would likely, because they're not here to impede us, right? They are here to help our employees get the best care that they can possibly get and to provide us as a plan sponsor and employer group with the best possible savings that they can under their model. And they indicated that verbally, don't have anything in writing, that they would likely release her to have an option. Certainly, she gets to choose, right, what she wants to do as she's an independent at that point. But they would not preclude her through a non-compete agreement. And then we would have to set up at some point a transitionary time frame where we would be moving into a new provider type environment and be moving away from our existing provider type environment, whether that be on site here at our Brookside Clinic or that would be at a different facility, potentially a Mercy One facility. So that's kind of high level. There's a lot more moving pieces to that, but that's really high level how it would be. So it's not a very challenging transitional set of requirements within our existing contract. I've seen others that are much more restrictive. So we do have some latitude there, and we've got a good partner.
And once again, I can add to that a little bit. The decision-making process, which I think is the essence of your question, involves our management's interest in a different arrangement being piqued by the party that's interested in soliciting our procuring them as a healthcare provider. Our management would then bring the offer to the attention of the insurance committee, which would likely include also the county, since they are part of our agreement currently. And that committee would hear from our management, who has been engaged in a dialogue with some other party, in this case specifically Mercy One, for example. And the issue would be debated or discussed at that insurance committee meeting. And then that insurance committee would, through Jennifer, make a recommendation to us as to what course the board wanted to pursue. So that's the decision-making process.
So to that point, Neil,
yes.
I want to just address a couple of things that have come up today. And first thing I want to do is I want to thank everybody who spoke tonight. We appreciated hearing from you. I think the community aspect is very strong from what I heard from you tonight, and so thank you for that. I did meet at the on-site clinic with the Mercy leadership probably 2 weeks ago, and had a tour of the clinic, and I was very impressed with what I saw. I think at this point, when we put together the RFP, as Aaron has mentioned tonight, we had just entered into a partnership with Freeborn County, and that is why we structured the RFP and the parameters that we did. The other piece of it, in full transparency, I met with a number of businesses and Mercy folks last September as they talked about opening their business clinic up. And I had some concerns because there were a lot of unanswered questions at that point, and we were pretty comfortable in our environment. So my really tactical decision at that point was, let's let Mercy open up their business clinic, let them work the kinks out, and we will begin our partnership with the county and see how that's going.
and that's what we have done to this point in time. I want to be clear that there's nothing that is precluding us from in the future of continuing to move with this partnership. And actually, one of the suggestions that I made to the Mercy folks when I met with them was, could we get some open houses? Can we get something so our folks can come out here and see this and see what this is about? So part of anything in life is, we're comfortable with where we're at, and we don't necessarily like change. And when we opened our clinic back here in 2014, people were nervous. Oh, we're coming to the district office to go to the clinic, and they're going to see us come in here. Well, now they love it because it's off the beaten path, and nobody sees them coming here. So I think that there's definitely some things that we can explore regarding a future partnership. But I just think the timing of this, with Freeborn County just coming on board with us, they're opening up, at Mercy, it's just starting to open for their businesses. That's why I really advised a wait, and we'll continue with the path we're on, but there's nothing that's going to stop us from potentially partnering down the road. So I just want to be clear about that tonight.
I did have just one last question. I was wondering if the board, or at least myself, could see the final numbers from the proposals that we were given.
Yeah, certainly. I can provide those to Jennifer, and then she can share those with the board. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, it's a very good discussion. Jill? What do you point at? I thought she had a question. Oh, Jill?
I was actually going to ask the same thing. I was going to ask if the insurance committee had been provided the numbers and if we could receive those as the board. So the insurance company was not provided the numbers yet?
So the insurance committee was provided the proposal numbers, and we did discuss that. Yeah, they did. And I'll share with Jennifer, and she'll share with the board exactly what the insurance committee received.
Thank you.
Okay, it's very good discussion. Let's see, where are we? 11.8, consideration, oh yes, another pretty big item. Consideration of a proposal from the Minnesota School Boards Association. Thank you, Mr. Casper.
Thank you.
Regarding our search for a superintendent. And that is Kathy, I believe.
So as we congratulate Dr. Funk on his new position, we know that we have to fill the position here. On Monday morning, I reached out to School Board Chair Neil Score, and we had a conversation about options. Several of the board members have mentioned in the last several weeks conversations they've had with MSBA, attending conferences, et cetera. So just in general, as Neil and I talked, I asked him if he would like me to reach out, and so I reached out to MSBA, Barb Dorn, who is their representative, which as members of MSBA, you can find that on their website. I reached out to Barb Monday morning. By the afternoon, she did send a proposal, and that is what you all received via email, and you also have physical copies of that. This is typically a 3-month process, as Barb explained. Neil and I and Ashley Matson met with Barb virtually on Tuesday. And so as we looked at this, she explained very clearly this would be more of a compressed process. And so she sent you a tentative timeline in your packet. We're looking at approximately 6 weeks using MSBA. That is the option that's in front of you. I Mostly, this is driven by the board chair in conversation with a search firm. And so Ashley and I are here to support the work of the board, but it really is the board's work. And so Neil was able to ask plenty of questions, as a lot of the responsibility initially and as we move to the end of the search process does fall on the board chair. So I'm open for questions, but what you really, I don't know much more than what you have in front of you. And should you move forward with MSBA being the search firm, it would again call for, as Neil has indicated, a commitment to a very compact timeline, which would mean meeting starting tomorrow evening at 5 o'clock with MSBA virtually. So I'll turn it over to Neil.
Thank you, Kathy. And again, I would like to entertain a motion to approve the recommendation that we solicit the services of MSBA so that we can discuss the matter. Do I hear a motion to approve the MSBA?
So moved.
Second. Moved and seconded by Kim and Dave. Now, questions, discussion. I'll begin with my my view or vision of this process. We don't have a lot of time. But I think we can do it. It's going to require a lot of our time in the period between now and July 1, and it's going to be it's not going to be easy, but we can do it. And you can refer to the timeline that's in the packet that you received from MSBA as far as that schedule. I think we can do it. Having said that, it's sort of like buying a new car. We want a new car, really bad, because the old one doesn't work. But we don't want to get a lemon either. Well, that's maybe not an exact enough. By the way, the old one is to be congratulated on so many things. And right now, congratulations on your offer for a position at Stillwater. And I've said it so many times, it's normal for superintendents, after a period of time much less than the time you've been here, to pursue challenges elsewhere. It's the way, it's the nature of the I wouldn't say beast, but the nature of the character, nature of the position. And so Dr. Funk has served us very well over the years. And in no way, shape, or form, I'm not exactly happy about the situation that we're losing a good person, but I'm happy for him and his family, and so I congratulate you. Again, we can do this, but we want to get a good car, and so we're not going to accept anything less than a good car in our search for a superintendent. I want to do this as fast as possible, but I don't want to rush into something that's ill-advised. Bruce.
One thing I've heard from the community.
We do need to act on the motion to accept MSBA, however, but I agree. We don't want to get a lemon here. We want to get a good car.
Chair Score, I did check in with some school districts that recently have used MSBA search opportunities and they've been very happy with how that's gone and the professionalism and really working with the boards. So.
You don't have to go any further.
Thank you. Have other search firms been contacted or reviewed, or only MSBA?
No.
We're aware of them, however, and I have been and I forwarded one just this
Yes.
afternoon, I think. to
One from
Kat.
Cedar Rapids or Cedar Falls.
Yeah, and
So there are two differences if in these two firms, as we've watched over, as I have watched them operate. And this MSBA has evening interviews, and after the first round, the second round goes to a day of a tour of the district, and then the second interview. School exec, which is the other most popular one in Minnesota, has full days for each of your first round candidates. So you're looking at multiple day-long interviews with focus groups throughout the day. Know that a lot of those are held in the schools with students and parents and community members and faculty and staff, and looking at our timeline and our last week of school coming up, the last, second last week of May there. You'll have final exams for high school, so then that puts you a week closer. You certainly could do that, and I think one of the things, and Neil can speak to this more than I can, that MSBA spoke about was what they found over COVID and not being able to do focus groups, bringing them together and hiring, that they did a lot of surveys. And she was very persuasive in her discussion that the surveys allow a wider group, would you say, Neil, of input into what the community would like you to hear in their consideration of a superintendent, which I found very interesting. So those focus groups, although provide some value, they really felt the opportunity to do the surveys in multiple languages that serve your community were more valuable. But you could ask, that would be a question, should you move forward, you can ask Barb Dorn or Jeff Olson about that. But that is the only search firm that Neil and I discussed.
Yeah, and Barb Dorn described those surveyed as stakeholders, and that includes everyone from students, certainly parents, community members, business people, all the people in this community that have any connection to the K-12 program are stakeholders, and they all will get data that represents each one of those categories.
Just piggybacking off of Bruce, I think, we need a tight window to work through. But at the end of the day, when we get to that end of the process, if we do not feel comfortable with what we have available, then it would be very prudent to review and start over again. We're only going to get one opportunity here to do it right, so we need to do it right immediately. And with all the issues going on in the community, we need somebody who's going to be very engaged with all the different facets of our community.
One thing, whatever firm you pick, they are aware of interim candidates or interim folks in the state who would be willing to serve. There's a group of retired superintendents who would do that.
Don't be misled. My desire to get somebody in place by July 1 does not mean that I wouldn't settle for anything less. Absolutely not. If this, and it's not my decision, for heaven's sake, it's this board's decision. If we are not satisfied with a candidate there's nothing that would convince me to hire somebody just for the sake of hiring somebody. Definitely not. And the prospect of interim, I'm pretty. I don't think this is chiseled in stone, but if you have an interim, it's probably going to be for an entire year, because superintendents work from July 1 to June 30th. So that's the available. If you don't have somebody hired July 1, you're not going to hire somebody until July 1 of next year. So, and that wouldn't be the end of the world if we had an interim for a year. It'd be better to have somebody permanently in place, but that's not going to cause us to make a hasty decision.
Too, with a interim, it puts them almost in a lame duck position. What's really best for what, or what's really best for whom. And that's why I think if we can, like you said, find someone, there's got to be a pool of people looking out there right now. A good pool that MSBA has probably worked with recently. And if that's something we can draw from and find the candidate, that's great. But if we can't, you've always got the interim. You know, and again, there's a lot of important decisions. If we end up with a COVID situation again like we've had, there's not any better than Dr. Funk that we've had. I think that's pretty well proven. And so I hope we don't have that come up again, but if we do, we got to have those tough decisions that are made.
Yes, I was impressed with the proposal here, and personally, I'm in favor with looking for someone now versus later and trying to get someone for July 1st, knowing that we can find an interim if needed. I was just curious, Dr. Funk, you've maybe you've only worked with MSBA, but as a candidate, have you worked with multiple agencies? You have thoughts?
I've worked with them once, and that was in Stillwater.
Okay.
I have not worked with them prior to that. And so, you know, I think statewide, MSBA has done, they did not do very many searches probably 4 or 5 years ago. I think this year they've done 25, if not more. They are the #1 search firm, most popular search firm in the state right now. They have really picked up their game. You've got a couple, school exec is probably the second most common. They are upper Midwest. They're based out of Illinois. And then there's a couple of other national firms. HYA, I think they may be out of Illinois as well. They were recently in Faribault. I think they're in some of the metro districts right now. And then BWP, who Minnetonka is using, Prior Lake is using. So those are kind of the main players in the state right now. But MSBA is currently the most popular in the state of Minnesota. And Barb Dorn has just done a tremendous job. And I think it's really a large part to her. And what they do is, if you look through your packet, you can see that they have a number of consultants that they work with who are retired superintendents. And they know the state and they know people. And so having those retired superintendents working for them, they have connections and they can talk to folks statewide. So that's what makes them a little bit different.
You, just to interject on that, is you will meet at 5 p.m. and I will send you the packet. Correct. Thank you.